everybody, and welcome to Season 2 of the Irish Podcast. I'm Jane.
And I'm Cormac. In this season, we share the ups and downs of our Italian journey.
From how we moved to Italy to the hustle of work, we'll be sharing what it's actually like to move countries.
Join us for our Tuscan adventures, our unforgettable bedbug experience, plus an Edinburgh Fringe special.
Whether you're a travel enthusiast or just curious, join us for stories, laughs, and good old Irish hospitality. What's up, what's up?
What up, what up?
That's not the most professional intro to one speaking about your profession.
Yeah, what up, what up? Welcome to Cormac Wigan Job History. Yo, yo.
I mean, hello everyone.
Hello, sir, madame. Would you like a table for two?
So this episode is going to be all about Cormac's work.
Woo!
Career, should I say.
Career, that's a better term.
Yes.
That makes me sound professional because I'm a functioning professional.
You're a professional.
Alcoholic, but professional.
As we said in the last episode, you are moving on. I'm going to jump straight into it because we have now realized that sometimes our podcast recordings last about 2.5 hours, and
There's about 45 minutes of usable material in those 2.5 hours.
yes, so we're trying to shorten down our times of recording, because if we shorten down our times of recording, then we can get more bulk content out. Not just shit on this episode being like, can you just run through it very
Just
quick?
come on, get on with it. Yeah, but it is an episode worthy of
God,
running
you just
through.
talk about your jobs. God, just hurry up, will
They
you?
took your job.
So, professional mode. Cormac, can you give us a brief history of your career?
Very, very, very quickly. So I decided after my leaving cert to take a gap year. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Took a job at my local hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Decided then I quite enjoyed it. Decided to move on that summer, about 4 or 5 months in, to work in a hotel with my sister, the Sea Vessel 4-star hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Then went to college, did hotel and catering management in GMIT.
And your brother and your sister had both had a background in hospitality.
So
as
my
well.
sister did the level 6 of the same course that I went and did myself.
Mhm.
So I entered in at a level 8. I ended up leaving at level 7. So I'm a Bachelor of Business in Hotel and Catering Management. Hospitality was always in our blood. My mom always did amazing, like house parties, house warmings, guests, everything was set up.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
Literally asked like your dietary requirement and remember.
Oh, she knew what
later.
table d'hote was before I even knew what a light bulb was. So yeah, for me then I just kind of moved on then between different jobs. So working in Galway, worked in the Merrick Hotel in Eyre Square, the one right behind the train station. Then I decided to I had to do work placements. So at the end of first year in the hotel and catering, you have to do a 3-month placement. They recommend you do it in Ireland, but you can do it anywhere in the world. I did mine at the Lodge at Ashbury Castle. So I did 3 months there in a restaurant, really enjoyed it. I always wanted to be a bartender, but all my lecturers were telling me, you need to go get the restaurant experience first.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, fair enough. I'll go do that. Really enjoyed it. Then took the opportunity when we had to do our next placement in the end of second year. So that was a 6-month placement abroad. I decided to go to Le Manoir Quatre Saisons. So that's a 2-star Michelin restaurant in a hotel run by Raymond Blanc.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might know, some people might not.
You're fancy.
You're fancy. Your mother, anyone in Ireland, your mother probably knows them. Just from the telly. Super fancy, really expensive, very, very plush. Been there for 40 years now, actually, this year. 40-year anniversary this year. So went there. It was the toughest job I ever had in my life. It was a 70-hour work week. It was like the 2 Michelin level is ridiculous, crazy.
Yeah.
Full white apron from my hips to my ankles. Just fancy.
Mm-hmm.
Then came back to Ireland to finish off my course. Got a summer job down at Lahinch, County Clare, the duty manager. Moved up that way. Then decided to move back to Galway, finish off my course, and went working in Chinoctons, where I met you.
Yeah.
So Chinoctons for 2.5 years. So in between, like a lot of part-time jobs, kind of going through those years. Those big places were my most important to learning what I wanted to do.
And so you'd wanted to be like, when you were doing the waitering stuff, you were like, I just want to be a bartender. I just want to be a bartender.
Yeah.
And then you got sick of bartending.
I basically, COVID changed everything for me, where I was like, I have to be a waiter again after getting into Noctons to learn more about whiskey. I wanted my product knowledge to increase about whiskey, about beers, about service in general, being able to manage like a busy bar. because I always wanted to own my own bar when I was older. So I just thought like going into Knoxon's would be an incredible experience, and it was. But then COVID made me back into a waiter, and I fought for a long time to get back behind the bar. Got a promotion, and then realized I really prefer being a waiter. So then it was just kind of like, oh God, what do I do now? So yeah, I was just like, do you know what? I'll go to Italy. I'll work in a vineyard. I was getting really into my wine. One of my lecturers in college she's a leading expert in sherry in all of Europe. She's the number one. She was the one who recommended me to go to the 2 Michelin-starred restaurant. She even said like there's not a lot of people that can do it. It's really tough. I was like, okay, no, I want to. Like, I really enjoy your class. So yeah, no, she was the reason that kind of I went that route. I thank her every day. She's definitely one of my leading role models in the hospitality world. And then decided, go to Italy, work in a vineyard for 3 months.
Slightly kaibosh.
And then I got an apartment with you instead.
And then I threw you into an Irish bar.
Straight into it. You were like, get a job if you want to move here. I was like, Irish bar it is.
Right, now you were just such a good bartender in Ireland.
You just had to bring me with you. And now I'm going back to my roots. Now I'm moving on to a new job that I start tomorrow. So that'll be an interesting update in a few weeks to see how we're getting on there.
You'll be like, get me back to the...
Oh my God, I want to serve Guinness.
No, I'm only joking. I will say from my perspective, Cormac is a great bartender, but he's an even better waiter. I've never seen such a high standard of service in a local pub in my life.
I took a lot of locals by surprise, I think. Where I was like, you want water? There's water. Boom. It's like, there's your food. Boom. What else do you want? Boom.
I love even my family. She's like, he's a class above. He's a class above. But we'll get into the questions.
Hit me.
Kind of touched on it, but what inspired you to pursue a career in hospitality?
I just kind of fell in love in my first job, being behind the bar and serving and making people's day. It's as corny as that sounds. It was just like really nice to be kind of, you're an important factor in a lot of people's lives. And if you give a good service, you can make someone else's day better. Mm-hmm. And that was a really simple answer there I can give. It was just, I really enjoyed it.
And definitely your mommy. I think your mommy.
My mom was secretly training me for a long time. Quick side story. I remember when I was like 7 or 8 on Sundays during the Gaelic football was on, I used to go into the pub and I used to love being involved, that I used to went and collect glasses for the publican. And in return, he would give me a free Coke and a free packet of crisps. And I just like, this is great.
Your parents had you so...
They I didn't realize until I took that gap year and worked at the bar. I was like, I've been doing this for years.
And I haven't been paid.
Yeah.
Where's my back?
Jaw wages. The
next question. Can you share a pivotal moment or experience from your early career in the hospitality sector that shaped your professional journey?
I actually, do you know what? I think it was funny enough that there was one time a local in the bar had been in, and he hadn't been in then for a couple of months later. And I used to go around with my apron on my shoulder, which is obviously unhygienic, and you don't do that properly. And I was sweating and panicking. And when he came back, had my apron there, my pen behind my ear. I was going around all the tables saying hello, bringing people drinks. And he just turned around and he said, do you know what? You're a far cry from what you were a few months ago. And he's like, fair play to you. And I just remember that moment. He's had way more words than that, as an drunk Irishman will obviously say.
Of course.
But for me, it was like a really nice pivotal moment where it's like, no, actually, I'm good at this, where I wasn't sure what I was good at the time, because I was only 17. I didn't know what career path I was going to take. But I was just like, no, I was like, this is a really nice moment.
So a little bit of positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Hear that, people? Tell your bartender you love them. Bring them to Italy. What do you believe sets apart exceptional hospitality professionals from the rest? And I suppose maybe you kind of mentioned earlier that some people might not be cut out for Michelin, but what do you think makes a really, really strong hospitality worker?
It's funny, in a lot of terms, it can be put very simply. It's the people that want to be there. Yeah. That's what puts it, because there are so many people that just do the job and they're really good at it, but they have other dreams and other ambitions, so they're not fully focused. And I think that's the big thing, it's focus. If you really love your job, a lot of people treat bartending, especially, as, I'm going to go serve a few pints, I'll make a bit of money. It's unskilled labor, don't need the experience. Oh, I know
It's for college, or
my
it's
mate Johnny, my mate Johnny owns a bar. He'll give me a couple of hours. So I think what really sets people apart is the people that want to be there, and it is their life, it's their goal, it's their ambition, it's their passion, it's their passion project.
Especially for people who, at the end of the day, they want to open their own place down the road.
Yeah. So it's the real, like, even, you know, when you meet a really good waiter, a really good bartender, he gives you really attentive service, or it's just like really quiet service, but it's always noticeably good.
They're in it for the long haul.
They're in it for the long haul. And as I say, it can be people who are just naturally gifted at it. But I think it's the person that wants to be there the most that really sets them apart from everyone else. Like, come rain or shine, there's always a smile on their face.
I've just paused the podcast for him to go and fetch me more Prosecco. So, you know, he's still my bartender at home.
I'm always working, even at home.
I'm sorry, I cook. I'm the chef. Oh, jeez.
I'm not running out of your 5 minutes.
That's a mighty glass there.
Okay, hit me.
Could you walk us through a particularly challenging situation you faced in your career?
Okay, so yeah, like, obviously working in a 2 Michelin-starred restaurant definitely had its challenges, like the pure just physical endurance, because when you're working at that high level where it's expectations, but like everything you do counts, everything you say matters. Obviously you can have many fallings out with the people you work with. Mm-hmm. And like, I had some pretty big ones, like arguments with chefs, and like even like some of the most famous chefs in England had arguments with them. One of them was just about respect for me, where it was very much a slight bias from their behalf. I won't mention too much detail in respect to them, but it was, you know, I was not French. So my name wasn't known to some of the staff. And I made that point very clear, where it upset me that I was just called mon petit, or my friend. Mm-hmm. And I took that personally at the time. I was obviously only 18, 19, still forming my career. I was about 20 actually when I started there. And yeah, that was really tough. It was just like gaining respect from some of your higher colleagues can be emotionally draining, and, you know, having that conversation with that particular chef saying, hey, look, my name's Cormac, not Mon Petit. Mm-hmm. Call me Cormac. And in fairness, till the day I left there, he called me Cormac. Yeah, I think in general as well, you know, like, when you're going through other stuff, like personal stuff, and then you have to put on the service industry face. You know, I've gone through a lot of personal stuff when I was working in different jobs, like behind the scenes in my own head, and you can't let it be known, because customers, you know, especially in more formal settings than informal, they don't want to know about your problems. They just want to be served, and served well and with a happy face. So hiding your emotions sometimes when you're in service is difficult.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's expected. It's expected in hospitality. Good teams will always rally around you, and luckily in my really difficult moments, I always had that. Mm-hmm. Always had that. So
you'd mentioned to me before about once you had finished in the Michelin, you went somewhere and you kind of, you know, you were 2021 and you thought you were like shit hot.
Oh, I thought I was. I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the bee's knees. I had no humility about me. And one day my head chef sat me down, head chef and manager at the place, and just called me out perfectly. And this is like, you act as if you know everything. You didn't ask questions about these things. You thought that you'd learned it all in the Michelin place. And he really brought me back down to earth, you know, and he said, like, a lot of these things were negative. And he's like, but look, don't think you just had a bad experience here. And basically demoted me, shifted me off to their sister place down in the other part of town in Lahinch, to work there instead, just on the floor as a waiter instead of a duty manager, which was a big knock to my confidence. But I realized as well, through his advice and through the advice of my brother being a chef as well, that it was like, you know, don't dwell on negative things, work towards becoming. So I always try to be more humble in my experience. So, like, you know, a lot of people know a lot more, and it's just like to always be learning. Yeah. Because it finished really well between us, because unfortunately another staff member or two decided like to quit on the same day, and he asked me to come back and help. And I said, of course, like, I'm not going to take it personally, trying to be more humble, you know, and give back to him. So it was, that was a challenging moment, but it was a good learning point for me where I didn't have humility. I thought, I've worked for Raymond Blanc and I'm a dive fucking great.
Yeah.
And in reality, like, I still know about 30% of everything that I want to know in my career, in my life. Like, I'm only at 35%.
Yeah.
I still have a long way to go.
Can you share a memorable encounter that you had with a guest or a client that left a lasting?
I have, I've so many. I have so many. One of my favorite moments in a restaurant was actually a couple who was in with their young child, and they were there having their food, and they were like, I was chatting away to them, and they were like, oh, don't worry, like, you know, he always falls asleep by 10. He always falls asleep by 10. You know, we'll have our main course. It's just after that. That's what we picked now, because he'll be asleep. Fortunately, the little baby was not asleep when they were trying to eat their main courses, and the dad had one foot on the pram, moving it back and forth, and they were sharing, and like the rest of the restaurant was quiet. So I decided to
leave it to it.
I decided to say, hey, look, you know, finish your main courses. I'll rock the pram back and forth. And I just continued chatting to them, was rocking the pram. They were able to finish their steaks. All of a sudden, they looked down and wasn't little baby asleep. And they just looked at me and were like, oh my God, thank you so much. And it was one of my nicest core memories of working in hospitality, where it's not all just about service, it's about being a nice person as well. And that's what gives you like a good, you know, gives customers a really good vibe. If you're willing to go above and beyond, as I always say, you have to go above and beyond for your guests. But I feel like that moment for me was one of my best, where like, I think she hugged me on the way out.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me, sorry to put it, maybe you don't want to tell this story, but it also reminds me of another couple with a child that you had encountered who maybe left a little press.
Oh God. Well, that was certainly memorable. That was the proper pub days where a couple asked, they were like, do you have any baby changing facilities? And I was like, no, unfortunately not.
In a
pub.
Like,
but we had the snugs. I was like, go into the corner, you know, like, you know, it was like nobody minds, like you're well out of viewpoint from anyone. They're like, thank you so much. And then they packed up and left, and I literally went up to the table to clear their glasses. They were already gone outside. And they had just left a full warm diaper on the table.
A big
and I just looked at it. I was like, no way.
This was at the tail end of COVID.
Yeah, the tail end of COVID. I was just like, there's one thing, like, you know, leaving without your mask on, or leaving with, you know, coughing all over the place. Leaving a baby's diaper on the table. I just looked at it and I was like, no effing way. I was like, did they just actually do that?
And we had just started seeing each other at this point.
Yeah.
He came over and told me, and I was like, no. I just burst out.
I just went back to the bar and I was like, will you hand me one of the disposable gloves? And like one of the bartenders was like, why? And I was like, I'll show you why. Brought the diaper out. I was just like,
actually outrageous.
Oh my God.
Why would you think that that's ever cool? Like, to even leave it in the toilet.
But like, there's so many like
on a
mad
table,
mad experiences. Like,
just gross. What advice would you give to somebody just starting their career in hospitality, or is perhaps thinking about a career in hospitality?
I think it's like incredibly important to go somewhere where you'll get good training. And in a lot of cases in Ireland, to try and find out where that is, you kind of like, I've suggested this before, but like, you know, ask your dad where would you want me to work, in the sense of like, where would I get the best training? Or like, but for me, it's always like, look at the places that can withhold staff, that can keep staff for many years.
That's a big one.
Because that's the thing, whereas it's like, if there's a bar that you know and there's a new face behind the counter every couple of months, there's obviously a reason for that. So it's kind of like, if you see these opportunities at places, whereas if they run a really good show, or you really enjoy going there because the service is always really good, then that's going to be the place to start. Mm-hmm. But it's, get it in your head as well, if you're starting in the industry, like, you're going to be dealing with people who are just assholes, who just, you know, come on, where's my effing pint? You've been standing there gawking at me. Come on, Could give me a pint. Sure, the pint's 6.20. Here's 6.10, young lad. You'll take that, won't you? You have to be used to the kind of like thick skin is one thing, but the memory of a goldfish is a great thing to have as well. Whereas just like at the end of the day,
you are so good at just like water off a duck's back. It doesn't affect your mood. Like I've no idea how you do that.
Because when I was first in the job, especially in a local bar, it'd be like, Brian, let's call him, would come in and he'd be 10 pints in, calling you a bastard, calling you this. Where's my other drink? Oh, Brian, I think you had enough. What the hell do you know of? All that kind of stuff. And then the next day he comes in, oh, how are you, Cormac? How are things? Like nothing happened. And for a 17-year-old, I was like, who? Like I didn't realize there was like two versions of the same people. And that's a big one, especially when you're young. When you're starting off, you have to realize that, and you have to realize that you're the bartender. So you have the responsibility and you have the power. And you're responsible serving of alcohol is so important as well, where you have to realize that you gotta keep it. Do your job.
As part of that, though, you've always said like to do courses to like maybe if you're really, really into the hospitality, to go and do like the university degree.
I would definitely suggest because in Ireland, obviously Shannon is one of the biggest ones. But GMIT, I have to say, I know I'm being biased here because I went there, but they have a really good setup of opportunities for placements, opportunities for working with the kitchen crew, because Shannon is very much focused, hyper focused, whereas GMIT is a bit more broader. You have a lot more opportunities like to work in the kitchen, to work in accommodation. And I know they do this in Shannon as well, but it's just that there's a much larger spectrum for you to learn from. And they have like a lot of really good relationships with really big courses. But I would say if you're starting out, offer someone to do a trial. Say, hey, can I come in and work for free one night and see if I like it? Because that's a really important thing as well, to see if you enjoy a place. And if you can get a trial after your interview or whatever, it's like, any questions, any chance of doing a trial, I'll work for free. I'll work 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on how much you want to do. Because I think, on paper, a lot of places look amazing. When you get in behind the scenes, it's not that way. And
definitely even that was true of like your new position as well, where they offered you 2 trial shifts and the other job didn't.
Yeah.
And I could even see from your perspective where I had actually drank in the second place that had offered you a job. And I was like, I don't think this is going to be for you.
Yep.
And so I think it's really interesting that, like, I don't really work in that. I work in the event sector, which is kind of parallel, but I think always go and see. And like, if you want to work in a bar, go and drink there.
Yeah.
If you want to work in a restaurant, go and have a meal there. Like, go and see.
I think a good tip as well for doing interviews, if you're starting off in hospitality, is to ask what your responsibilities or your roles are. Ask for the full detailed description of your job, then go do the trial and see what extras, if any, they kind of add on while you're there. Because I've done jobs where it's like, oh, you're only responsible for this. Oh no, you have to come in tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning and do the keg delivery and stock delivery, and be like, that wasn't a part of the job description. Like, not just heavy lifting, but like you have to make sure that they don't take advantage.
Of course,
a way to tell other good places is like their willingness to give you a trial. Because a lot of places will be like, no, sign the contract, you're in.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe not.
And especially now, I think in Ireland, it's your market right now. I mean, you could go home and snap up anything.
Yeah, well, Ireland at the minute, unfortunately, is looking for bartenders, hospitality waiters, like left, right, and centre. And it's important, really important, to go into a place where you can get good training. And that's the thing you're going to have to ask is like, how long of like a shadowing experience do I get? Because I've been in jobs where, I was training staff, and I usually get half an hour or an hour to introduce people to the location, to the setup, where we keep everything, our menu, answering all those questions for new staff, telling them everything. And then sometimes when it was quote unquote busy, I was told to give a 10-minute tour instead of a 40-minute tour. And I apologized to the new staff member. I was like, I usually have a lot longer to do this. This is going to be so intense. Like, here's 7 different rooms. Here's the 30 items we keep in this room. This is where you can find this thing. This is the menu. This is gluten-free. This is celiac. This is this. This is that.
But this is a huge thing of what Cormac said is if there's a place that you really, really want to work in, sorry, because we're re-recording this podcast video before, but in a different format. And I do love what Cormac had said, and this is true of like if I'm employing someone or if I'm interviewing someone, you were always saying if you want a job somewhere and you go in for an interview, or if you go in and just even hand in your CV, always ask for the menu. Just study the menu, go and Google it, Google the reviews, see what's been done well, see what like complaints have come in. Like I think it's just
one thing that Jane has always suggested on the holiday that I think really reflects as well on like hospitality is go in and look at the lowest rated reviews.
Yeah.
Go in and look, like, see if it's a thing where it's like, if it's a staff issue, or if it's just like a service issue in general. It's like, oh, the food takes too long, or this particular staff member is this, this, and this, or, you know, and there could be a plethora of different.
And you can tell, you know, especially if you want to get into hospitality or if you work in hospitality, you can tell straight away if someone's just being a bit of a wagon or not.
But it's going into trying to find those places that give really good trainings, and even like entering in like for a summer job and like a busy, you know, like in Lahinch and like different coastal towns, there's a lot of opportunities to go in for a summer internship into hospitality. But, you know, if you really get into it, go abroad, get a J1, go to France, go to Italy, go to Spain, where they really like respect the tradition of doing hospitality done well.
Yeah.
But if you really have a passion and you watch all the food movies and you watch all the cook shows and all of that, it'll be a lot easier for you to kind of realize and decide.
Only 2 more questions to go, Cormac.
Give me.
So how do you maintain a work-life balance in an industry like hospitality? So maybe talk about like the restaurant and then the bar side.
They're much of two in the same. Restaurant gives you more opportunity for different styles of shifts where, you know, you could come in and you could do breakfast, you could finish at 4 or 5 and you could have your evening off, but then you have to be in the next day. You're dealing with, you know, instead of one team like on a bar, you're dealing with 2 teams in a restaurant. You're dealing with the front of house and you're dealing with chefs. Chefs and front of house are very different, extremely different people. And it's like dealing with chefs can be difficult in a lot of places where it's like, because it's such a strenuous job being a chef. And if you want to be a chef and you're listening to this, don't quote me. But it is like, you know, it can be like hammers hitting each other's heads. It's just like you can see the world completely different. But it's very much kind of, you have to keep the balance of service is service. Marco Pierre White said that. He was just like, when he first went off, it's like, out of respect, you call someone chef. And when service is finished, if you still feel like calling them chef, then you know that that person is someone you respect and that you can work for really well. If you always respect them with their codename of being the chef. But it's just about balance in the sense of like, you need to have a goldfish memory. You need to realize that when people say things when you're in work, don't take it to heart. And that's really hard to say to someone because it is tough. Like, you know, I've been screamed at. I've forgotten more like slurs against me or, you know, insults against me than I can possibly remember.
I've seen you come up against some tough pricks, like.
Yeah, and it's just to remember that like the more than likely situation is that tomorrow they will completely forget about you and possibly walk past you in the street or serve you in their job the next day if it's another bartender, which it could be, and they won't remember a thing.
Or they come back in and think everything's rosy. Be like, I remember the first 6 pints, don't remember the last 4.
Oh, I had, you know, even in Finnegan's here, I had someone like call me a C word across the bar. And he thought it was all in fun and games, but it was across a crowded bar of people who just looked at him, who didn't realize we knew each other, obviously. And I was like, ooh, you know, you can't be saying that. I was like, that's not cool. And I was like, because no one else here knows that we know each other like we do. And he was like, I don't remember doing that. So I think for keeping the balance.
We keep on saying, because we have a TikTok, and we keep on meaning to make a video where it's just Cormac shouting, but is it drunk or is it toddlers?
yeah. Am I talking to drunks or am I talking to toddlers? It's like, get down from there. No, you can't drink that. No, you'll get sick if you have that.
That's Aki.
yeah, that's Aki. Put it down. Get down from there. But remaining in the balance is having that ability to realize, and a lot of the times it's just from experience. It's just from kind of wading through the shit.
I think from seeing you more in, I think from knowing you obviously a lot more and seeing you work in 2 different establishments now, I think the biggest difference is, do you have a good temperament?
Yeah.
Because if you have a temperament that can change like the wind, or if you can get a bit grumpy, or if you can get whatever, then maybe, you know, slinging out 800 pints to feckin' arseholes isn't for you. Whereas you just enjoy it and you make friends while you're doing it and laugh. And
I can find it very enjoyable as well for someone to go crazy at me, and then for me just to kind of sit there and laugh and realize that these people are just like bad people. And I feel like, I'm glad I'm not them. And then just go back to work.
Yeah.
But keeping the balance of like, you know, don't make the bar your life. Don't make it your lifestyle. Get that separation, you know. Have your morning routines before work, have your after routine. Go get drunk with your colleagues, go get drunk with your chefs, learn a bit more about them, and it'll make it a lot easier to work with people as well. When you have like nearly like, I can't remember the amount of times in a new job where we've gone out, got drunk together, and then gone into work the next day with the worst hangover possible. And the bonding experience that can hold, where literally one day, I remember, quick side story, sorry, but I remember we had the staff party, and there were the few of us who were all kind of new on the job, or the people who were picked to work the morning after the staff party, which is the graveyard of graveyard.
You'd want to be getting double paid for that.
Me and my friend were working the night before, and we decided to go to the shop and buy Tang fast sticks, and buy Crest, and buy Lucozade, and buy Cokes, and buy all the necessary hangover stuff possible for the next day. To which, when our duty manager, who didn't realize we did all this, came in, he hugged us, nearly cried, and said, "Thank God I'm working with you guys, because you're prepared." So it is finding that balance of just like, you know.
Oh, I do want to touch on, sorry, just based on this question, is there was a bar that you were working in, which you lived above the bar. And I just want to touch on that for a second, because obviously your rent was a lot cheaper because you were living above the bar. Yeah. But I know that really kind of affected you in some odd ways. And
that was tough. That was a unique way as well, because unfortunately kind of the entrance to the apartment went through a part of the restaurant and then into the beer garden. So it was always a thing, especially at the time, because I wasn't just a barman there, but I was a duty manager there. And I was like, I remember one day leaving my door, you know, it was my day off, and I wanted to go and have a few drinks or meet a friend for a coffee. And the accountant was going upstairs to the office, and she was like, "Come with me, we need to talk about last night." And it's, you know, like in a lot of times, a lot of people will say, "Oh, sure, it's fair enough if you made a mistake or if something was wrong, you know, you have to deal with it." But I'm always, and Jane knows this from me very well, where it's like, if I'm not working, I am not involved.
You are so good at that. Like,
because it's just, if it's my day off, it is my day off. I'm not getting paid to consult, you know. And fair enough, at that time, I was only newly a duty manager, and I was obviously living above the pub. So I had to go upstairs for 20, 30 minutes to find a problem that actually, at the end, wasn't even mine. It was actually to do with someone else that took cash out, and then my float that I put in for the end of the night was down. But it's things like that really affected me, because it just, I was always in the pub. I was always inside it, because from my bedroom window, I could always hear my colleagues. I could always hear customers.
See the setup. You could hear the kegs.
I heard everything, and it was just like I wasn't good at separating that in that sense. I always think about getting away, going somewhere new where I'm not involved, and you know, like that was always a thing for me. I like it. Parts of it I enjoyed, but it was just more.
I think that's where separation has become even more important to you now. And it's, I think, with us moving here, and you know, you had gotten a job in the Irish bar, and that was amazing, because we had a group of friends that we had made, and you know, everything was kind of focused around the bar for so long. And yet it took me about 6 months to realize that it was very unfair for Cormac, where we had made, in my head, all these new friends, and isn't it fantastic? And like, you know, we can have them over for dinner parties, and we're based in the pub, and Cormac's still my bartender. But I kind of forgot along the way that you were working, and you were the bartender, and you were the sole responsible person to keep that all in check. And you had a very different relationship with these people, because you're their bartender. You're not, you know, my boyfriend, or I'm not your girlfriend. You know, it's just a very different thing. So I think you've gotten really good at separating business from pleasure. Yeah. You can always go for drinks with your co-workers. You can always live near the pub. But I think you've very much been like,
But you can do it in moderation for sure, because if you work at a nice bar and you enjoy having a pint there, then go for it. But it's, like even in the Irish pub here, like a couple of times we did the lock-ins, and like even you said to me, you were like, oh, well, why don't we stay? And I'd be like, oh, well, why don't we go around to the bar around the corner? And she'd be like, but you get your free pint or two after work, and like, you get your discount here, and like, it's way cheaper we stay here. And I'd be like, but I'm still in charge. I still have to do the drinks.
And that
I know I'm with my friends, but I'm still responsible. No matter how drunk I get, I still have to lock up, make sure everything's turned off correctly, make sure the bar is clean. And
you could never put your shoulders down.
I could never put my shoulders down.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think it was the same thing when you were living above the pub. Like
I could never put my shoulders down. Be worried about who I'd run into, like in the hallway or even outside.
Bringing girls back.
Bringing girls back. I only brought one girl back. Now I live with her in Italy.
So the final question, Cormac, is what is your 5-year plan? Apart from obviously us getting married and getting a dash hand.
Well, that's number uno and due right there.
Excuse me. Sorry, I'll rephrase that question. What is your career goals for the next 5 years?
Oh, yeah, sorry. The podcast is about my career. Oh, yeah.
Slip that in there.
You tried to get me there, didn't you? 5-year plan for my career. Currently I'm moving on to my new position tomorrow, the chef de rang. I want to learn more about the bar industry and the trade and the restaurant trade. I want to make more connections in Italy, go to more events, meet more suppliers and providers of alcohol, olive oil, lemons, kind of learn more about the grassroots of produce in Italy. And then in 5 years, be kind of looking to get into either a co-ownership or general managerial position of running a place. And either with a business partner that I trust or by myself if I have enough capital. I think deciding there, a 10-year plan would be to own my own place.
Yeah.
But 5 years to be in with someone else, I think that would be the
the thing is, you've been offered 2 leases since we got here.
It's going pretty well, yeah.
It's going pretty well. But no, definitely.
But,
so you got your sommelier level 2 this year.
Yeah.
Or well, last year now. And then...
So I think over the next 5 years, it's complete a few more courses. I always had the possibility, they were trying to bring my hospitality course online to Galway as well, which would be very interesting to finish my Bachelor of Honours degree, which means I could become a lecturer in the future, which would be a big interest of mine because I do love teaching. I do love about hospitality and like the trade. So that would be a couple of courses, more detail, kind of visiting vineyards, I want to visit a vineyard. We've lived in Italy for a year and a half and we haven't visited a single vineyard.
It's finished.
I meant to move here to work in a vineyard. I still haven't found my way to find one yet. But yeah, no, I think the 5-year plan is very simple. Learn, and learn.
I think you're looking for like a buddy. I think you're looking for like a partner.
I'm looking like a Fred Syriacs before he became all famous.
Yeah.
I remember watching him 12 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, I think, on Michelle Roux's show. I was like, that guy. So I want to...
Well, you've got the shaved head, the beard, and you'll have the navy suit in 2 weeks, so...
But I don't have the French accent. I'm learning an Italian one, so maybe I'll be the Irish-Italian Fred.
You'll have the sexy Irish accent, though.
Sexy though?
Sexy to people who aren't from Ireland.
Me and my bogger accent, yeah. To anyone from Ireland is just like, oh yeah, he's from the Midlands. Yeah. Anyone outside of Ireland is like, oh God, your accent is beautiful.
Somehow I'll get you like your own telly. The Irish podcast.
Well, we do know
program.
A very famous actor here who might be able to give us an opportunity.
Cutting that out. Anyway. Cormac, any closing words on your career or what you want to say, or if you ever use this for a future job interview where you're not arse turning up, do you know?
I think if I could give people like, if you want to get into wine, look at Wine Folly. Both on Instagram, they have wine books. It's a very good introductory. If you want to get into wine, do that. I would recommend the book by The Dead Rabbit Irish Pub in New York. They're from Barley to Blarney book is very good about an introduction to whiskey. If you're interested in whiskey, I would watch the movie Bert with Bradley Cooper. That's a really good insight into the Michelin chaos of like pure
And the bear.
pure addiction. The bear as well is incredibly a good insight to just like how mad hospitality people's lives are in the terms of like obviously doing that. Anthony Bourdain is another good insight to like just like, you know, how different cultures can come together in terms of hospitality.
Chef's table as well.
Chef's table is really good.
Just to see
really,
how
really
dedicated
good.
people can be.
Yeah. Just like, but it's, you know, it's a pure go out there. If you love dealing with people and you find your own self-enjoyment from it, go and do it. Offer to do trial shifts, offer to work for free for a night or two in different places. Always say yes to different opportunities. Like I got asked to be a kitchen porter for a night. I said, yeah, of course I will. See where your niche, your happiness is. See where you really enjoy working in hospitality, because there's different sections.
I want to say from a perspective of someone who's a remote worker who can kind of travel pretty much anywhere, being an Irish bartender is so malleable. Like you can move anywhere being an Irish bartender. Do you know?
You don't really need the language. They'll hire you without the language. They'll offer to help teach you the language.
And it's a fantastic way to learn as well. And I just feel like it's such a, if you're someone who's not that great at tech or doesn't have an interest in working in tech at all, but you love people, you love being front facing, I think actually working in that hospitality like niche area of Irish bars, there is an Irish bar. We've even looked at moving to the very, very, very south of Italy. They were giving grants out to move to this like super remote place that has less than 3,000 people living there, and they were giving grants especially for if you wanted to set up a business there. And we were like, God, maybe we'll go down there.
Jane turned to me and she was like, you should set up an Irish pub. I turned to Jane and I was like, bet you there is one. And I Googled it.
2 bars.
There
was an Irish pub.
One of the smallest populations of all of Italy, and they had an Irish bar.
Yeah.
They love it over here. And like a lot of cities, like anywhere in France, anywhere that's really much like wine, the traditional pub is the Irish base plan. Like that is the floor plan for just an original bar or original pub where they just serve pints. You don't need to get table service or your tapas or aperitivo. We're rocking and drinking beer.
But I do want to say, I think my biggest point is that if you want to become a remote worker and you're like, God, I really want to move country, but I don't know how to get there and I'm not good at online. Like, do I need, like, how can I become an influencer or whatever? You don't need that. Go into an Irish bar and just become shit hot. And then there's Irish bars all over the world.
And I have to say, like, even from working for years and years and years in Ireland, like, networking opportunities were incredible. But being a foreigner in a country where there are other foreigners who've been there for a long, long time, who are like incredibly big businessmen, or they set up their own industries, whatever else, the networking opportunities are absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Like huge. I've been offered other Irish bars since I've been here. I've been offered to help run hotels. I've been offered to do wine tastings, like to run wine tastings, unfortunately, an hour outside of Florence.
You'd be cycling for hours.
All through people that I've met working in an Irish bar. And, you know, like the 2 days before I started in that pub, Bill Murray was drinking there. So I'll just leave that as a... You never know who you're going to meet, but it is a fantastic opportunity. You're right in saying that if you just get the basics in Ireland, work for a summer for your local bar, and then go abroad, the world is your oyster.
So thank you so much, Cormac, for that very professional interview.
Thank you, Jen.
You might have gotten the job. We'll see. We'll get back to you. But yeah, so thank you so much for listening. We are now officially the Irish Podcast. You can find us on theirishpodcast.com, and all of our social handles are the Irish Podcast as well. Tune in next time for All About My Work, where Cormac's going to interview me.
How the turntables.
How the turntables have turned. And we'll talk to you on the next one.
Thank you very much for listening.
Slán go fúl.